Hello and welcome to this episode of Essex by the Sea. I'm Owen Ward, exploring the Essex coast, finding out about the amazing and interesting stories it has to offer. Before meeting my guests, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe on your favourite podcast app, and don't forget to tell your friends about Essex by the Sea and encourage them to subscribe too. Now, you may have heard about couch to 10k, but what about sofa to sailboat? That's what two people are planning to do right from the Essex coast. John-Kenneth Habbershaw and Courtney Hollyoake are both former emergency service volunteers and plan to sail on their own across the Atlantic, and they both join me now here on Essex by the Sea. So, first of all, whose idea was it to take on this epic challenge?
It was my idea. I've been working with ocean rowing boats for 6 years. These are the men and ladies that actually row across the Atlantic. I've kind of had to put my money where my mouth is because they've been trying to get me to row the Atlantic with them. But being an absolutely useless rower, I would have just ended up going in circles around the Canaries. So I decided to go, look, guys, I do want to join you. I want to raise some money for charity. So I'm going to sail across the Atlantic instead. But I didn't want it to be easy. I wanted it still to be a challenge. So I went to a boatyard and I found possibly the most impractical smallest boat that was suffering in the corner, and then the kind of idea formed after a bit of research and a trip to the Canaries. I then, at much assistance of my wife, had to take someone with me to make sure I behaved in the middle of nowhere. So Courtney, my friend, who I've known for about 20 years, I've kind of literally roped him into it.
And Courtney, I mean, how experienced are you both as sailors? I mean, you are always on the water?
Well, if you count going on ferries and, water rides at theme parks, then yes, I'm very experienced. But I have absolutely zero sailing experience. I've got to build all of that up before going, obviously. But JK is definitely the one that's got the experience at the moment. I'm just hoping that I'll be able to get to that level and be able to provide some kind of assistance rather than just there sort of laughing at him, really.
Making sure he doesn't get into trouble. In that then, I mean, I guess if you had to do lots of training for this, I mean, you can't really just go and sail the Atlantic with very little experience then.
COVID in 2020 has seriously put a dent in the sailing hours which we wanted to get in. But Courtney is following the RYA kind of pathway, if you like, to being a skipper and to obtain his international certificate of competence. My own sailing experience is about 12 years. I grew up in a seaside town. I was a Sea Scout, so I've been near water for as long as I can remember. But both of us are also expanding on what we're learning. So we're doing a lot of extra safety courses, survival courses, and we're doing some specific training with the manufacturers of our equipment as well, so that if we do have an equipment breakdown, we'll be able to fix it for ourselves.
Well, we'll look at the boat that you're using. I was going to call it a ship, but it's not really that, is it? In just a moment. Why though are you doing this? Why did you think one day this would be a good idea?
As some best ideas are formed. It happened in a pub about 12 years ago when I was with one of my friends, Tim, who was going to do a similar journey with me, but unfortunately he moved to New Zealand, and then the idea just never really burnt out. It was always there at the back of my mind, and 6 years ago I just started putting it into practice.
So this is quite a long time in the planning. Is that just because life's got in the way, or does an expedition and an adventure like this take that long to plan?
It's a little bit of both, Owen. Between starting my own business and getting married, it kind of put me on the back foot for a couple of years. But as I mentioned, working with the ocean rowers, it's kind of given me the push to want to do it. Seeing the endurance that those guys and girls go through, it's become almost a need to do it now rather than a want to do it.
The rowing boats that you mentioned, are not your typical rowing boats you might see Oxford and Cambridge in along the Thames. These are quite a bit bigger with sort of places where you can get some shelter from the elements. Am I right in thinking that these are similar to ones? There was a TV programme just last year, and I'm trying to think what the title was. Was it Rock the Boat or Don't Rock the Boat or something like that? It's that kind of vessel that these rowers are in.
That's exactly right, Owen. Yes, those boats that were in that program were built by a company called Rannoch, who are actually based in Essex as well, down in Burnham on Crouch. So I've been speaking with those guys a bit, and I've worked well with them over 6 years. So they've been a big influence and inspiration for what we're doing.
Courtney, when JK came to you and said, "Hey, fancy doing this," what was your reaction?
My reaction was, yeah, why not? How many people can say that they've sailed across the Atlantic? And again, how many people can say that they've sailed across the Atlantic as part of a two-man crew? And again, how many people can say they've sailed across the Atlantic as part of a two-man crew in a boat that is essentially no larger than an estate car?
It's very small. Now, when we're talking about sailing, I mean, are you going to be under sail? Is this going to have the big sort of white sheets to go along in the wind, or are you going to have motors? Tell me more about the vessel you'll actually be using.
Okay, Poppet, our Leisure 17. She is designed as a sailboat. She's 50 years old. So yes, we will mostly be under sail. We'll be using a roller furling system, so we'll have a double main head sail for the technical listeners and a main. But excitingly, we're working with some emerging electronics companies on some solar and some wind generator systems that will charge a bank of rechargeable batteries, so we can also motor as well. So this motoring will give us on average about 1 knot extra per hour, so we should be able to complete our trip about a week quicker than we'd originally planned, while testing some new renewable energy equipment, which is quite exciting.
I was going to say, that's quite exciting that actually you're using this as I suppose an experiment almost with that technology. So how long is it going to take then to do the crossing?
Our original estimates were about 35 days. We're hoping to do it in a shave under 30, so about 29 days, we hope.
So you're planning on doing this in December 2021. I mean, do you know what conditions are going to be like in the Atlantic in December?
Following the marine almanacs, which are published, which they show have things like average wind speed, wind direction, wave heights. Statistically, we're going smack bang in the middle of the best time of year to go. We're following what are called the trade winds, those same winds that the famous clipper ships used to use, things like the Cutty Sark. So we're using those winds and weather to our advantage.
Courtney, what's the thing that you're most looking forward to from this trip?
I would say just the experience as a whole, not just, the actual sailing part and being on the Atlantic and that section of it, but also the whole process. But to single one thing out, I think it's going to be that moment when we're in literally surrounded by nothing but water, with no other ships that you can see, and just that hopeful tranquility, really, waiting for the next storm to roll in, probably.
It could be a bit lonely, I guess, potentially, just the two of you bobbing around in the middle of the ocean with literally nothing but sky and sea to look at.
This is precisely one of the reasons why I, in discussions with my wife, wanted to take a friend. When you read a lot of self-published books from sailors that have done similar trips across the Atlantic by themselves, one of the big problems is loneliness. And then that develops into hallucinations and other mental health issues. And surrounding that was one of the reasons why we chose to nominate Mind as one of our charities, which we're supporting with this adventure.
There's a number of charities that you are supporting through this, Mind being one of them. What are some of the others, and why them that you've chosen?
So we've also got St Helena's Hospice, which is a local hospice in Colchester, which is where JK lives. We have also got MSUK as well. We have also got Macmillan Cancer Support.
Some recognisable names of charities there that do fantastic work. How's the fundraising going? Because actually fundraising during 2020 and the coronavirus pandemic has not been easy for a lot of people. Has the pennies been rolling in for you? And where can people support you if they are fortunate enough to be able to do that?
We're not going to beat about a bush. It's the COVID pandemic has put a huge impact on us. We had a lot of planned events and fundraising opportunities in 2020, which we had to cancel, unfortunately. So we're kind of rolling them all over into 2021. We're planning things like bringing a boat to some local boot fairs, We're taking it across the country to various sponsors. We're going to have a gala dinner, hopefully in Essex. And also we're going to do a sponsored 24 hours in a life raft at a local marina. We've raised so far £1,475, which is just amazing. And that's from generosity of people we've never met, just people on the internet that have found our journey. And we're very, very grateful to them. And if anyone is interested in donating, we have our website, which is sofa2sailboats.co.uk.
Fantastic. And the boat itself is here on the Essex coast that you're working on to refurb and get it fit and shipshape, if you pardon the pun. Just how much work's needed on the vessel to get it ready for your challenge?
Quite a lot of them. I mean, it's completely stripped out, basically to back to the same as it was as when it came out of the moulds 50 years ago. There's about 200 hours of work to put it back together again, which unfortunately now, because of the COVID restrictions, it's going to make it exceedingly difficult. But we have the support for some other local boat builders and some companies that are going to help us make up the time on that.
That's very good that they are able to support you in that way, because it's certainly been difficult for everybody, and I'm sure for them as well. In terms then of the route, you mentioned starting off on your trip across the Atlantic, not actually from the UK. So where are you sort of starting from and where are you aiming to get on the other side?
We would have loved to have started in the UK, but it would have taken us about an extra 8 weeks to do that. And unfortunately, with families and work, that just wasn't going to be practical. But we're following the trade winds. So we're following basically the route that Christopher Columbus used when he discovered the Americas. So we're going from the Canary Islands to the Caribbean, most likely Antigua, which is our current plan, but subject to change depending on the COVID pandemic.
And how, when you're setting off on that, obviously you get to a point where you can't see land anymore. I mean, how are you going to be navigating across and aiming for that quite small island on the other side and making sure you hit it?
Fortunately, unlike the explorers of 400 years ago, we've got quite a nice array of electronics and satellite position sensors, which will tell us exactly where we are. But from time to time, we're going to try and turn those off and navigate the old-fashioned way with dead reckoning, a compass, and some astronavigation as well.
Well, let's hope for some clear skies, because otherwise you won't be able to see the stars to navigate by. Final thoughts then from you both, if you will. Once you've completed your epic challenge, how do you think you will feel once you've done it?
I think once I get to the other side, I'm going to want to just hug my family. I've got my firstborn is on his or her way during June, so I'm going to be away for them for 6 weeks. So I think I'm just going to be very glad to see them. But I also think afterwards will be a bit of emptiness, I think. And once the journey is complete, this journey is consuming my life at the moment almost. And I think it's going to leave a bit of a void, which I'm not looking forward to.
So for me, it'll be the elation of actually making it, first of all. But then again, a bit like JK says, this project is going to have taken up a lot of time, and there will be that bit of, well, now what, but then it's hopefully going to really raise the profile and some much needed funds for our chosen charities. 2020 has been an awful year for so many people, and charities have been hit just as hard, if not harder, than everyone else. And just that bit of knowing that we've been able to do something to just maybe help out with some local services and some national services and put a bit back into the world, really. And then who knows, whether or not we have plans for any other voyages. There might be a case of, once you've done one, why not try and cross another ocean?
I think we'll have to see if our wives will let us do that, and if we're actually still talking to each other as well.
Well, I wish you all the very best for your quite epic adventure there across the Atlantic, and perhaps once you have returned next year, maybe we could talk again, perhaps hopefully face to face, and actually hear what it was really like from you both.
Oh, we'd love to, Owen.
Do wish you all the best, and hope it goes well and you manage to overcome all the challenges and obstacles in the way in between now and setting off, and good luck in your crossing.
Thank you.
Till next time, thanks for listening.